Hi, I'm Stephen Walworth with 3 Gates Films, and for the past month, I've been in-depth testing of the new DJI Mini 3 Pro. I've tested image quality, range, battery life, speed, tracking, hyperlapses, and I've also compared them to other DJI drones such as the Mavic 3 Cine, which is DJI's top-of-the-line cinema drone. So how does the Mini 3 Pro compare? Does the extra $4,000 for the Cine really make a $4,000 difference? You're gonna find out in this review. Also in this review, we're gonna give this very drone away to one of our viewers. In fact, we're gonna give one drone away every few months, so find out just how to do that later in the video. Before we get started, make sure you click subscribe and click the bell icon so you know when the next video is out. And with that, we're gonna get started. So, a little quick background. I'm a professional cinematographer and FAA licensed drone operator. I film for feature films, Fox Sports, national TV shows, many commercials, and have over 10 years of commercial drone experience. I've also owned and flown every DJI drone to date, so you're gonna get a really objective review of this drone. I ordered the Fly More kit with this drone for longer flight time and extra battery, so we're gonna find out how long it actually flies for, as well as how far it can fly and still maintain signal. Is this drone good for beginners? Well, Gary here took the controls having never flown any drone in his life. So was he able to fly it or did he crash it? That's coming up too. As always, I'm doing this video in sections so you can rewatch the video and skip to the section you're most interested in. The time codes for the sections are right here on the side and also in the video description below. So let's get started with setup. The Mini 3 Pro I got comes with the controller with an integrated screen, which is only about $150 more than the one that doesn't have a controller. So to me, this is already an amazing deal maker for me. You're basically getting a controller with an Android device and screen for only $150 extra. That's crazy. When you get your drone, the battery has to be activated by charging it, which you can do by plugging a USB-C cable into the drone while the battery is plugged into it. When you start your drone and controller for the first time, you're going to be prompted to update the firmware on the controller and drone. The controller has a built-in Wi-Fi, but I hate to say it took me forever to figure out how to log into the Wi-Fi. So here's how you access it. You access the Wi-Fi by swiping down on the top of the screen and selecting the Wi-Fi. After updating the firmware, you'll also need to download the local maps, which you can add by clicking on the top right corner of the map screen. Without doing this, before your first flight, the map may show up totally blank. If you need Wi-Fi access when you're out flying somewhere else, you can tether to your phone's hotspot and download the local maps that way. So for the first flight, if you've never flown a drone before, put the switch on the controller to normal mode. Turn the controller and the drone on by a single press followed by a longer second press of the power button. To take off, hold both sticks down and to the center and press the button on the home screen to verify that you've done your safety check. Now raise the left stick and start flying. So my friend Gary here has never flown a drone before. Let's see how it went for him.
I love it. I have control, but it actually makes me feel at ease.
Is it kind of intuitive or not really?
Actually, yeah, very much so. I just love the fact that if you get in trouble, you can just let it go and you can kind of reset yourself. We're good.
So let's talk about the special autonomous features. The system on this drone is called APAS 4.0. It detects objects in the aircraft's flight path in real time. This allows DJI Mini 3 Pro to avoid obstacles even in complicated environments. The autonomous features on the Mini 3 Pro, in my opinion, are nothing short of amazing. So I took the drone mountain biking because I wanted to see just how well it could follow me through the woods on my bike using Active Track. So you'll see in this footage that I keep looking back in the video because I wasn't sure it was going to be able to track me through the thick trees. But to my surprise, it never lost sight of me and never stopped tracking me, even around trees and ducking under branches. On the open road, it was no problem for the drone to track me, although it couldn't match my speed on the bike of around 20 miles an hour. So if you're using the drone to track you, it should be for like hiking or jogging, but not for high-speed activities. So I did compare this feature to the same Active Track feature on my DJI Mavic 3 Cine, and it was able to track me at higher speeds, and it was also just as amazing tracking me through trees, especially when I chopped off this branch and just kept following me. Tracking that rotates around the subject can be tricky if there is any obstacles because the Mavic 3 Mini can't see things to the side of the drone. The tri-directional obstacle avoidance does not include sideways motion. and it will run into something if you choose this kind of tracking at low altitudes or around trees or buildings. How do I know? Because I did it. I damaged a couple props, which I easily replaced with extras, which was provided in the package. So this is unlike the Mavic Pro 3 Cine, which has omnidirectional obstacle sensing. So rotation tracking around an object with obstacle avoidance is actually possible. Other autonomous features like hyperlapse yield some really cool results, like this circling a bridge over a river or crossing a highway interchange. To achieve this, just select hyperlapse and then what type of hyperlapse you want to do. Choose a focus point or a direction of travel and click Start. Results are actually better if you have ND filters because moving objects will have some motion blur, making the video look smoother. So what are ND filters if you're a beginner? Well, without them, you're in bright situations. The only way to correct overexposure is to increase your shutter speed, which makes objects totally freeze frame. So putting an ND filter on is like adding sunglasses to your camera. Now you can leave your shutter speed slower, allowing for natural motion blur, which makes movement in hyperlapses look more natural. Features like master shots and quick shots create some standardized moves of a subject you choose, like this spiraling upwards away from a subject, or pulling away from a subject, revealing the surroundings. These are cool, like one and done kind of features that I wouldn't use too much of since they do the exact same moves each and every time. On the Mini 3 Pro, there are some limitations compared to the Mavic 3 Pro Cine. You can't actually shoot in D-Log color profile when you're using these master shots or quick shots. Always remember that sideways obstacle avoidance doesn't exist on the Mini in any situation. So if you choose any autonomous flying that circles an object, be sure there's nothing in the way, otherwise you're gonna crash your drone. I know I'm repeating myself a bit, but I don't want you to be disappointed and crash your Mini as soon as you get it out of the box. Another difference with the Mavic 3 Cine is that you can shoot in D-Log when you're using these functions, but you just can't shoot in ProRes. So you're stuck in H.264 or H.265 on the Cine when using the master shots and quick shots. Let's talk image quality. So what is the image quality like? So for something this inexpensive in the DJI drone world, I definitely had some low expectations for image quality. I expected fluctuating digital noise like in older DJI drones, or no option for shooting log, no iris adjustment, and overall bad image quality. So the footage on the Mini is in 4K, coming from a 48 megapixel sensor. So there's actually more pixels available on the sensor than the 4K. Actually, the sensor is 8064 by 6048. That makes the image for this footage very detailed. The image on the Mavic 3 Cine is 20 megapixels on a 4/3 sensor, which is 5272 pixels by 3948. And that's a 5.1K video, which turns out to be 5120 by 2700, which is actually a bigger sensor in size than the Minis, but just fewer pixels. This makes for really good low light footage at higher ISOs than the Mini. But the Mini is still really impressive at low light because it has this dual native ISO. So how does the image quality compare between the two? Gary, what am I looking at here?
I can't believe what I'm seeing.
Are you kidding me? I mean, this drone is $1,000.
And that one's 5,000.
I'm just blown away. Just look at this image we shot at Lake Tahoe. This was shot in H.264 with a D-Log profile for best dynamic range, and then graded in Premiere Pro with just a little quick curves adjustment and some saturation help. Even punching into 400 times reveals there's just so little digital noise in the footage. I gotta give a ton of points to DJI for creating such a tiny drone with such amazing video quality. So how does the full resolution image compare to the Pro Cine? I actually think that the Mini's footage is cleaner and more lifelike. I can't even believe I just said that. So how is this even possible? It must be due to the sheer number of pixels in the sensor of the Mini. Let me add though that I shot the footage on the Mini in D-Cine-like, which allows for more dynamic range and better color grading in post. If you shoot the footage in normal mode on the Mini, it's not gonna be as good because the saturation and contrast will be pre-baked into the footage and nearly impossible to adjust properly once the footage is in the bag. This also allows you to blend your footage on the Mini with footage from other high-end cameras much more easily because of the D-Log and the ability to grade it. So the full res footage is awesome. How about the slow motion 120 frames per second footage? Well, this is where the Mini just completely falls apart. The slow motion footage is forced into normal color profile and is only 1080p, and in my opinion is just garbage. It's so pixelated and over contrasted, whereas the slow-mo 120 frame per second footage from the Mavic 3 Cine It's still 4K and still looks just as amazing as the 5.1K footage. Shooting directly into the sun is problematic on the Mini. It has this really ugly lens flare compared to the nice multi-lens flares on the Mavic 3 Cine. Dynamic range is better on the Mavic Cine with 12.8 stops, but the Mini has a dual ISO of 100 and 800 ISO. So when you're shooting 30 frames per second and below, it shoots HDR, which makes the image quality sometimes better than the Mavic 3 Cine, like in that previous shot of Lake Tahoe. So what about the 48 megapixel images? I mean, 48 megapixels on the Mini is better than 20 megapixels on the Mavic 3 Cine, right? Well, sort of. I'd say the images on the Mini are slightly more detailed than the Mavic 3 Cine images, but it's kind of hard to tell a difference. But what is cool is that you can turn the camera vertically on the Mini and shoot vertical images, so that you can put your videos and pictures in the perfect format for Instabook and Talkface without losing any resolution in the edit. I mean, that's pretty sweet, isn't it? Before we talk about other cool features, we actually want to give this drone away to one of you. This video is sponsored by One Door Studios, which we actually work for. They have a film project right now that is in development. The writer is Emmy award-winning writer Anne Peacock, who wrote the screenplay for the highly successful Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And so to sign up to win this drone, which they provided, just go to their website, onedoorstudios.com/join, and sign up there. You'll also get updates and info on how you may be able to be involved in this project. Become a producer, be an extra in the film, or even win a day on the set of this major motion picture. So head over there, sign up to win the drone, and come back and finish the video. There are other cool features. So on the Mini, you can shoot stitched wide-angle panoramas, 180 degree and sphere with the click of a button. Also, the Mini's camera tilts up much farther than the Cine, so it enables you to shoot shots not really possible with the Mavic Cine. But these features like a 360 panoramic, 180 degree panoramic, can you do this on the Mavic Cine also? Yes, you can. So both these drones are pretty well equal in this regard. So what about flight time? DJI claims that with the stock lightweight battery, you can get up to 34 minutes flight time. Well, this test was done by DJI at a constant speed of 21.6 kilometers an hour in a windless environment. And with a larger battery, a time of 47 minutes is possible. Well, how did my test go? In real life situations, expect much shorter flight times because there's no perfect scenario. Sometimes there's a lot of hovering involved, which uses more energy than flying straight. A drone moving forward will generate a little of its own lift, something called transitional lift, which is why you get better battery life at 21.6 kilometers an hour. It uses less energy, but it's only at specific speeds. Hovering time with the lighter battery for me got 29 minutes before the battery was at 1%. And the longer flight time battery was around 39 minutes. But this is going to vary with every situation, especially if you're flying in sport mode, which uses a lot more energy. Times are going to be way shorter flying in sport mode. So don't plan on flight times as advertised because the drone will also auto-return to home long before the battery is fully depleted. You'd actually have to cancel auto land to get that kind of flight time and likely fly below 0%, which is actually terrible for the life of your battery. So let's talk about transmission distance. Can it really transmit 1080 resolution at 30 frames per second, 12 kilometers? Well, in our test, with a line of sight and a special observer, I flew the drone 6 kilometers away and still had several bars of reception. I never lost signal. So why didn't I fly it any farther? Well, at that distance, when I finally flew the drone back to my home point, I only had a couple minutes of battery left. But keep in mind that range does not apply if there's a hill or trees between you and the drone, or if the transmitter is pointing in the wrong direction. So can it transmit 12 kilometers? Probably, but I don't know if I'll ever find out. It's kind of like Tootsie Pops.
The world may never know.
So what's the summary? This drone is so convenient, so tiny, so easy to fit in your backpack or even your pocket. It starts easily, operates easily, especially with the integrated controller. No need to plug a phone in or a cable into the phone. You can screen record your flights if you want. The only negative for me is changing blades if you have a mishap. You'll actually need the provided micro Phillips screwdriver or one exactly like it. Unlike on the larger Mavics that have a press and twist to change blades. If you don't have the screwdriver with the Mini, well, you're screwed. The menus are all the same on each DJI product, so there's no comparing them. If you've flown other DJI drones that are easy to use, then this one is too. I thought I was buying a drone that I would not want to keep, since I already have DJI's top-of-the-line Mavic. But after using it for a month, it comes with me on camping trips, it's a backup drone for my commercial shoots. Image quality is what really surprised me. With D Cinelite color profile activated, the image quality almost rivals that of the Mavic 3 Cine at 4K 24 and 30p. That just blows my mind. One $769 drone versus a $5,000 drone, image quality is just as good at 4K. As I said, the slow motion falls apart on the Mini, which is why I need the Cine for shots like this. Photo quality is comparable to the Cine. In fact, it's a little more detailed. Speed is a little slow for me on the Mini for chasing action. The lack of sideways obstacle avoidance is going to be a problem for some. Somebody is going to do a circle around a subject quick shot and crash their drone into something. So always be aware of your surroundings. The weight is fantastic at only 249 grams, because that means you don't have to register the drone with the FAA if you're using it for non-commercial work. All other drones that are heavier than this, you have to register with the FAA drone registration site. So in my opinion, if you're looking for a powerful drone that isn't expensive, the Mini is just amazing. Go get one and start filming beautiful things. And don't forget to sign up to win this drone at wonderstudios.com/join. Subscribe and hit the bell. Details are in the link in the description below. Have a great day, guys.